Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dr. Craig Kasper from NYHD and the Institute for Hearing and Balance. We're back with another episode of the Audiologist at Home episodes, and today we've got Dr. Zweig. What's up, Dr. Zweig?
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How you feeling today?
I feel well, good, energized, oddly.
Good. I like the plant. It's a new addition
Thank
to the
you.
studio.
It is a tree I added in today.
It's a new addition to the home studio. We're upping our game here.
Yes, some
Excellent.
oxygen in the house.
So we've got a question for you today, and it's totally relevant, and I think that this is important information because we've all been living through this coronavirus thing, and most of us have been stuck in our houses. That was the catalyst for us starting these videos in the first place. Um, but there's this concept of social distancing. A lot of people are starting to wear masks. Not many people are talking about the impacts of social distancing on those with hearing loss. So, how do you think social distancing is going to impact those who have hearing loss?
Okay, so social distancing is obviously impacting everyone, but probably particularly those that have some hearing loss. There are a few resources written online about this. I've kind of compiled them together for this video to give all the information I can. Just to start with a little statistic here from the World Health Organization. There are approximately 466 million people around the world that have hearing loss. So there's a large number of people impacted by this. Though social distancing is going to impact everyone differently based on their degree of hearing loss, their age, their visual abilities, there are a few universal tips for optimal communication during these times, and I think it's really important that communication is heightened during these times. So first, I just want to talk about how the physical distance between people is going to impact those with hearing loss. And then I'm going to go over some tips for people with hearing loss, those individuals that are communicating with people that might have hearing loss, as well as what we can do in our home environment and maybe some apps that will help with communication as well.
Sounds good.
So let's first talk about the physical distance, how this impacts people. So physical distance is actually going to impact speech production. The further away speech is presented, the more sound that is lost. Speech is a vibration, and it requires energy to get from the speaker to the listener. So the physical distance is going to impact specifically high frequency information, which houses consonant sounds. So the F, the TH, the SH cluster, the CH, all those consonant sounds that allow us to distinguish words and give us clarity in speech. Consonants hold in the English language most of the information in speech. So we're going to lose a lot of that just from the physical distance or having to stay the recommended 6 feet away or apart from each other. So not only is it going to impact sound clarity, but distancing, we have to think of those that rely specifically on spoken language via visual cues like lip reading and facial expressions and body language. That's going to be impacted as well if we can't rely on that due to the distance. Secondary to that, the protective gear, such as face masks, which you mentioned, are going to obviously impact those abilities, those visual cues as well. A benefit in probably the healthcare system more than just outside in the real world at this point is that some healthcare providers will have shields that are clear. Clear shields are obviously going to help with that, but in the real world, we're not seeing many people walk around with that. So I'm gonna keep that as a benefit in the healthcare system.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about tips. So I want to talk about tips for the individual with hearing loss. And the first tip is to tell the speaker you have hearing loss. I think even before this, that's helpful for communication skills. I know not many people are necessarily willing to go out and advertise it, but I think that's a really important tip, is to let somebody know that you have hearing loss, because that will change the communication between the speaker and listener. Don't be afraid to ask people to repeat, rephrase, or to talk louder. We want to watch body language and facial expressions as much as we can. And if lip reading is available, that's obviously going to be a good tip as well.
Sure.
If you have glasses, wear your glasses. That's going to be helpful. Take advantage of good lighting. Good lighting is always helpful for communication because we're able to visualize as much as we can, even at a distance. Some tips for those communicating with people with hearing loss: face the individual directly. If possible, we want to avoid noisy backgrounds. We want to speak clearly and project our voice. We want to exaggerate body language. So these are all communication tips that are helpful for the speaker and the listener. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what we can do at home, because obviously most of us are staying home during this time. So some tips for people with hearing loss that are at home. There's no better time to be utilizing video conferences or video calls. It keeps us connected. Also from an emotional standpoint, I think that's really important. So it allows us also to get closer, quote unquote, to someone. If I'm able to get closer to a camera, you could visualize my lip reading. I could speak louder. I could adjust volume. All that's going to be really helpful. Closed captioning on television. News is really important during this time. We want to make sure we're not missing anything. So let's utilize those closed captions. If you're working from home, there are a number of video conferencing outlets. I'm sure many people know this, but there's Zoom, there's Google, there's Skype, many other outlets I probably don't even know about. And if you need help with your hearing aids, do not hesitate to contact your audiologist. I think that's really important. We're doing telehealth, we're helping over the phone. We are in contact with manufacturers, so if your hearing aid needs to be fixed or you need help with cleaning, we can help with all of that to help to make sure that your hearing aids are functioning optimally. So don't be afraid to do that. Reach out to your audiologist, especially if you're just interested in some additional tips. So some technology or apps that you can utilize as well to help with communication. For a speech to text app, there is Google Live Transcribe, and I'll give this to you after so we can kind of put it on the screen for everyone. Google Live Transcribe, there is an app called Ava, A-V-A, and Otter, O-T-T-E-R. For phone call to text apps, when you're on the phone for a transcription of that, you can go to InnoCaption. And then there's also apps on the phone that are built-in mics. So if you have headphones and you point your phone in a direction of the speaker, it will enhance that speaker, and that is called Ear Machine. So even if you're in a doctor's appointment, you can utilize these, especially if the doctor's standing at a distance or the nurses. Use your phone to enhance the speech signal. I think these are all communication apps that we should utilize, not only during this time, but probably helpful for anyone with hearing loss.
Absolutely amazing. There's so much information packed in there, and what we're going to do is in the link below the video on YouTube, we're going to include all of the resources that you just detailed for everybody as well. One point that you made that I thought was really, really important that we just cannot fail to recognize is the psychology of this. It's hard enough when we have normal hearing and we are in our apartments, our homes, without much human contact for an extended period of time. But when you're in that position and on top of that, you have a hearing loss, which makes it even more difficult sometimes to communicate and to be connected to our world, it impacts us on a psychological level that is so much deeper.
Yeah.
So I think that all of those are super, super important suggestions. Amazing information today, Dr. Zweig. We're going to link up, as I said, all of those resources in the notes below the video. I really appreciate that. I know that a lot of people are going to appreciate that based on what's going on in our world right now. And we're going to have more of these videos. If you guys have specific questions like this one for myself, for Dr. Zweig, or Dr. Naeem, you can email them to info@newyorkhearingdoctors.com, info@newyorkhearingdoctors.com, and we'll be happy to get to them as we're doing these videos on an almost daily basis at this point, I think. But again, thank you so much, Dr. Zweig. Great information today.
My pleasure. See you soon.
Take care.